Yeah, I'm back out where Tammy got her larger nugget yesterday. And what a quiet morning. Desert sure got green with all this rain. It's pretty amazing. I mean, it was all brown and shriveled and dormant just a couple weeks ago. 3 weeks ago or so. Now with all the rain, everything's nice bright green and critters are jumping and moving around and everything's good. I got kind of a surprise in the mail yesterday. This little package with a little nugget container and this. What is that, you might say? Well, it's a darn good idea. And a friend of mine, Doc, makes these from Doc's Detecting. But it's a new cover for the Minelab Gold Monster, and this little piece goes on the lower handle for the wire to go through, so you don't have to clip it in that real tight clip. And I'm trying one out on my machine this morning. I'm really liking this. It's probably a real bear to try to make something to cover up that machine because of the way it's shaped, but it tends to fall down here and there, and it's kind of nice to have a cover on it. The result, after you put this cover on, is this. Pretty spiffy. And it's still open for your headphone plug right here, and the speaker's right there. The neat part is he's got this little handle piece that also goes on here, where normally this wire clips into the actual handle itself. It's kind of a tight fit. Puts a little strain on the wire, but with that on there you don't have that problem. And the battery box is still able to open without a problem. Don't have to take anything off to open the battery box or anything. I'm impressed. I should have these available real soon. I guess within 30 days there's going to be a bunch of them coming in. And get a hold of me if you're interested. I think they're going to run around $44 or something like that. Somewhere in that neighborhood. Pretty good price for something to protect the $800 metal detector. Anyway, I'm going to go out and see if I can't scrape up a nugget or two out of this little spot. Hunting with a 5-inch coil again today. And I get people asking me all the time, why are you using a VLF instead of your pulse induction unit out here? Why are you using the small coil, etc.? The reason is the dirt where I'm going to be hunting today is so shallow, there's no real advantage to having a pulse induction unit in my hand. And I'm looking for gold that has been washed out by the recent floods or thrown into tailings piles by the people that were working in here last. And probably 95% of the dirt I'm going to be hunting is no deeper than 4 or 5 inches. And I just like the Gold Monster for doing this type of work. And it's become my favorite VLF machine. And just because I own pulse induction machines don't mean I use them 90 or 100% of the time. I just don't. And a lot of times it's about choosing which detector is best for the situation you're in. Okay, well today hunting shallow ground on bedrock and looking for smaller pieces that were missed, and well, I'm always looking for the big one, but in the area I'm going to be hunting, if I get one it'll be pretty lucky, but they're still here, I suppose. There's been some up to over 3 ounces found in this area right here. That was with pulse induction, hunting some of the deeper ground up higher and on the flats. But today we're going to be concentrating on the shallow stuff and where the old timers pretty much worked. And I own 4 different gold machines. And I own 4 different gold machines simply because there's different conditions you're going to find in different places. And having the machine that you think's best, or simply the machine that's best for you, is the key to being successful. And I'm not saying everybody has to have 4 gold machines. You don't. But you need to know the limitations of the machine you do have and go with it. Now, using a bigger coil on this machine, I'm going to get better ground coverage and better depth on larger targets than I would with this one. And the smaller one's going to be more sensitive to small targets than the bigger coil. And with pulse induction, it's not the same. pulse induction, bigger coil gets you deeper, and a lot deeper in some cases. But again, you're going to lose sensitivity to smaller stuff with the bigger coils, and smaller coils are going to be more sensitive to smaller nuggets. It's just physics. And with pulse induction, there's a bigger change in depth than you'll find with a VLF. It's not as extreme with a VLF when you switch from say a 10-inch coil to a 5-inch coil or up to a 14-inch coil. You're mainly getting more ground coverage, and the depth isn't as huge a factor because the 10-inch coil is going to get pretty near the same depth on most targets as the larger coil will, though the larger coil will hear a bigger piece of gold a little bit deeper than a smaller coil will. Pulse induction, the bigger coils hear much deeper than the smaller coils, especially on larger targets and whatnot. And that's why a lot of us use pulse induction machines. They also handle the ground a lot better. We have a choice between double D or mono coils, and they're just great machines. And as the weather changes and it cools off, I'll be using the pulse induction machines a lot more when I start hunting some deeper areas farther from home. You know, it's just, like I said in several other videos, it's just too darn hot right now to go too far out in the desert. And, so I stick pretty close to home and just get out and have a little fun, break the cabin fever. So anyway, let's go hunting. Alrighty, this is the type of material I'm hunting today. And as you can see, it's kind of a conglomerate bedrock. It's a sandstone type mudstone material. It's been compacted, and there's some tuft mixed in here, but it's got volcanic material embedded in it. And I'm not sure if this was actually done by the volcano and laid down as bedrock, or if it was compressed by the earth afterwards and this conglomerate was the result. I'm not smart enough in geology to understand a lot of this. I do know it's just very shallow, and that's why I'm using a VLF here today. I just feel it's the right tool for the job, and I'm going to walk on up here. You can see the old timers have really worked this area. All the rock up on the edges have been thrown up by hand, and there's tailings piles all along here. A lot of them were in the wash and have washed away. As you can see right here, this is all that basalt that we talk about, and there's just huge boulders of it in here. And as a rule, they're pretty hot, and that makes it real tough on my pulse induction machine trying to work in this material as well. But you can see there's no depth at all here in the material. And we're going to work along the banks and in the wash here. We've seen so much movement of material in the last 3 or 4 weeks that it's a pretty good chance of getting a little piece or two out of this wash, I would think. And here's where the old timers threw up a bunch of the material up out of the wash. Telltale signs that it was plastered with dry washers. And I actively look for these spots simply because if they were finding gold here, there's a good chance I will too. And it's a lot of fun being able to recognize these areas, be out walking somewhere in the middle of nowhere and look up and find yourself in an area that's been plastered before and actually know what you're looking at, and educating yourself in locations of gold in the area you plan to hunt, and what to look for is a key. I mean, you just can't walk out anywhere in the state of Arizona and find gold just because you're in Arizona. The right rocks have to be there. There has to be the right conditions for a placer deposit to have formed, and a lot of other factors that I've talked about in some of my other videos. But anyway, I'm going to quit gabbing and get back to hunting here. I've had it. It's really hot out here today and humid. Fella can only take so much of this. Fall will be a refreshing change. Only 2 targets, I guess 3 targets today. Empty 22 shell casing and 2 BBs. That's it. That's it. Not much in the way of metal of any kind in the ground here anymore. But, geez, it's fun. And I don't feel like I got the cabin fever quite as bad. I was just out here trying to scrape up at least one little piece for the day, but it's not going to happen. And not much else. I'm just going to go home and relax. I don't even know if I'll post this video. It's kind of short and nothing happening other than the new cover. So, like I said, my friends, you don't always get gold out here. And I like to make that very clear to people. And if you think we come out here and find gold every trip, that's just not the way it is. We pay our dues for every nugget we get. And with that, I'm going to say nugget shooter out.